Let me get to the point. We need to build the black nation. One of the silliest things we ever did was fight for integration. It set the tone and paved the way for our assimilation, which left us in a Western psychological plantation. It's a shame. And I don't know how we're gonna build when all of our courageous leaders end up getting killed. When you stick up for the Pan-African nation in our glory, they will crucify your character and make a whole new story. Speaking of complexity, something that I often consider is how important it is that we as black people in academia speak and write in ways that are accessible to black people outside of these spaces, you know? We must fully reject any form of academic elitist exclusivity. And further, we must acknowledge that the differentiation of radical alterities is conducive to the conceptual logic of a truly advantageous and inclusive black liberatory praxis. You know, I catch a lot of flack for all the work that I do. Black people calling me extreme. I'm out here fighting for you. Academics say we don't have a thought-through plan, sitting in that ivory tower with a book in your hand. Don't get me started on these internet activists today. Don't come to not one of the meetings, but got everything to say on Facebook. Respect yourself, and maybe then you'll get respect. Listen, we have to do better at keeping each other in check. We kill each other, then focus our attention on police. The approach is counterproductive, and quite frankly, it's obsolete. And we must shift our energy. How negative can we be? If all we ever think about is bad things, then we manifest that. You see, I was reading this book the other day, and it literally said exactly what I always say. You attract what you think about the most, you know. And if we think more positively, then our reality will be so. We say what sounds good at the time. Instant gratification to soothe your mind. Gray area is scary, but often where the truth resides. But in this game of politics, you know you gotta pick a side. But what if both sides are both right and both wrong? I said, what if both sides are both right and both wrong? So activism looks like many different things. Activism can be a number of different ways that you show up consistently for your community, but I wanted folks to understand, at least as we begin to get into conversation, why I felt it necessary to write those 4 characters. Not just because I think that they're interesting, but because they disagree with each other, and they're all right and they're all wrong, and we need to be more invested in seeing how we can engage in more effective communication. What we are seeing this year was happening last year, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before. What we're seeing now is more people being willing to acknowledge it because they saw a video that horrified them. Like, let me be clear, it was happening already. What I had to start to do with myself was understand why I felt like the need to write this piece. Why is because I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into something that is not often addressed in some of the spaces that social justice advocates occupy, which is intention. What do I mean by that? There's a saying that says, you know, it is not necessarily your intention that matters the most, it is your impact. And impact is more important than intention. Now, let me be clear. Impact is more important than intention when we're talking about the practical lived realities of what we experience in real life. If somebody's impact is negative, is harmful, is dangerous, is damaging, even if their intention was not to do anything bad, the impact was still done. But I want to say that intention actually does matter. What do I mean by this? There are characters and people with positive intentions, right? But their impact or the way that people might hear what they're saying doesn't sit well with them. Their ideological leaning, it rubs them the wrong way. I began to have to do within myself what I proclaim is necessary in this piece, which is to put my guard down and hear what this person is saying, hear the intention behind their words, and hear if they're actually indeed attempting to advocate for something healthy and just, as opposed to something damaging, and maybe their presentation of it is just something that I don't agree with. This is the difference. We do not advocate, welcome, or accept bigotry, but what we do is actually acknowledge intention and navigate difference in a more healthy way so that we can begin to really adopt what we call an abolitionist philosophy, which is to stop disposing of people and throwing them under the jail or throwing them in the garbage the moment that we disassociate them from ourselves. I know that art is sometimes identified as this thing that we use merely for entertainment. Art transforms cultures. Like, art informs the way that we live. What is culture? I'm talking, culture is the thing that guides how we live, and culture is informed by, yes, our food and our language, but our music, our media, our movies, our literature, our stories. Art is the weaponry in ideological warfare. And we are indeed in a state of ideological warfare. What advice can I give to people who are still developing in their activist identity, that are looking to get involved in the social justice community? Take what you do well and offer it to the movement. You take what you know how to. People come to me quite often and they're like, you know, I want to do something. I don't know what to do, but I want to do something. What do you know how to do well? What are you willing to do? And show up and offer that. Right? And especially if we're talking about non-Black folks that are looking to be allies in the movement for Black lives, right? Then do your work and do your research so that you don't come with questions that you could have looked up, right? That you could have studied, and offer more labor to the folks that are just there to essentially do the work, right? But if we're talking about folks that are really looking to get involved, there are many different organizations. Black Lives Matter has a very expansive network that can be tapped into. If we're talking about, you know, organizations that are doing brilliant work, Until Freedom, you know, the movement for Black lives, the list is expansive in terms of organizations and initiatives that can be tapped into. You know, on the ground here in Los Angeles, Measure J, that is going to be on the ballot, we have folks that are, you know, really pushing this measure that would essentially take 10% of Los Angeles's budget and use it towards resources that are going to counter incarceration. We're talking about mental health resources, education, jobs, recreational facilities, the things that actually make communities safer. So I say all of that to say, the organizations are there, the measures are there, the initiatives are there. Find where you fit, offer what you know how to do. If you are a videographer, we need you. If you are a graphic designer, we need you. If you are a musician, we need you. You're a poet, we need you. You're an educator, we need you. You're a caretaker, we have children, we need you, right? You're a cook, we need you. Everybody and everybody's talents are made useful.